Oh, yes. Go. I'll tell you in a minute as part of the introduction, very brief introduction.
Okay. We're recording. Yeah, we're recording. Hello.
Hello. Are you well?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Well, I must tell you before I start, yesterday, after my 2 meetings, I needed time to relax and refresh. And so I thought I'd treat my wife and take her out. So I took her to the tip to get rid of some of the rubbish out of the garage, which I thought was very good. And she enjoyed her trip to the tip.
How long have you been married?
Oh, 36 years.
Okay, so the romance is not gone then?
No, no. And then to really treat her, I took her into Lidl on the way back.
Oh!
Yeah. But this story has a reason, because when we were in Lidl, I met a couple from our 8 o'clock congregation, Joan and Michael, who live up by the senior school. You will know them, a small couple, white hair. That's it. And it's the first time I'd seen them since the Sunday before lockdown, when I said goodbye to them. And Michael's been unwell and had treatment, and he's now great, and yeah, that's good. So hello, Michael and Joan, good to see you. But they said to me that the highlight of their week was watching you and I have our tiffs on Rev Chat. And it just kept them going through lockdown. So well said, Joan and Michael. It's lovely. You may not be in America or in Spain or anywhere else, but you're with us. Thank you.
Our tiffs. I love it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
They loved it. They can't wait for it to go up there, and they've enjoyed the worship as well.
Oh, that's lovely to hear that. Really good. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, let's have our pause. It's a tough old reading today, isn't it?
It is.
Although we've just summed it up, we can do our summing up in a minute when I've read it.
Yeah.
So we're continuing on. This is the second Sunday after Trinity. We're continuing in Matthew's Gospel, almost picking up from where we left off last week. There's a little gap, so you might want to go back and read from, say, verse 16, because that will give you the kind of middle bit. But this is from verse 26 to verse 39 in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 10. Jesus said, "So have no fear of them, for nothing is covered up that will be uncovered." Oh no, I've started in the wrong place. I'll go back.
He'll cut it out. He'll cut it out.
He'll cut it, he won't, he'll leave it in. Right, a disciple.
He'll cut it out.
A disciple is not above the teacher, nor a slave above the master. It is enough for the disciple to be like the teacher, and the slave like the master. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebul, how much more will they malign those of his household? So have no fear of them, for nothing is covered up that will not be uncovered, and nothing secret that will not become known. What I say to you in the dark, tell in the light, and what you hear whispered, proclaim from the housetops. Do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. And even the hairs of your head are all counted. So do not be afraid. You are of more value than many sparrows. Everyone, therefore, who acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever denies me before others, I will also deny before my Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and one's foes will be members of one's own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Those who will find their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. So, a little bit of context maybe. Jesus is talking to the apostles. The whole of chapter 10 really is a sort of commissioning, I think as he's equipping them and sending them out. And he's saying, my paraphrase of this passage will be, don't be surprised if it's really hard. And if people will get really annoyed at you for telling them about me, Jesus, that is. And I think I can own that. I think there's been times in my life where people have been really fed up with me because I've banged on about Jesus.
Yes, I'm sure. Yes. I was saying, and I say it regularly in churches, and I always end by saying, and I know you will hear me say it again, and that is that being a Christian is not meant to be, or never was meant to be, an easy task or a life or role. When you're called to follow Christ, you're called to be Christ-like in all that you do. And so this call, which I love it, and it occurs in, I think it's Paul's writing as well, that if you want to be like Christ, you've got to take up your cross like him, to follow him. And I think that's a very, very, for me, a very powerful statement and almost vision of what following Jesus really is. Yeah,
because really, it's an invitation to suffering, isn't it? Because the only thing that not the only thing, many things happen on the cross, but the very obvious thing is that Jesus suffers and dies. And so basically being invited to take up your cross means come and step into some suffering and eventual death.
Which leads, in the words of a beautiful hymn, and I only use 2 lines of it, in the cross of Christ I glory, soaring through the realms of time. And I think, yeah, that it is about the suffering. It's about every aspect of Christ's life, isn't it? That, we're called, and if we answer the call, then as in anything else, if you answer or if you join up, there are certain things you're expected to do. So in your case or my case, if we join the gym, you're expected to abide by the rules. And in the gym that I go to, there's a big notice on the wall saying no food on the floor. Well, personally, I'd have it on a plate or in a bag, but I think we know what it.
Probably not in the gym either.
I think that's exactly. And when you sign up to follow Christ, if you're really signing up to the full package, then it's not easy, and it's a struggle.
And I think the gym analogy works really well with this, because actually it's all very well. Anyone can go and register at a gym, pay your monthly amount, and then never go. Yeah. And there won't be any transformation apart from the size of your bank account. But actually, if you want to engage in transforming yourself in terms of fitness, then that does require determination and effort and sweat and suffering and being prepared to squeeze the time in everywhere. And we both know that, don't we? As you can tell by our amazing physiques. Yeah,
absolutely. The comparative fitness levels are stunning, aren't they? I've done so much weight work these past few weeks that you can see the weight is just there. But, the real difficult bit about that reading is from verse 34, isn't it? And in the Bible version I've got, it's headed not peace, but a sword. And trying to get your mind around that, if you've got no theological understanding or training, is so difficult. And I've been questioned on that many times. I've not come to bring peace to the earth.
But if you know your Messiah or your Christmas cards, then straight away you're into peace on earth and goodwill towards men, which is what the angels say. And you want a dove, lovely Christmas card with a dove and peace. And surely Jesus has come to bring peace. Yeah,
I've come to set man against his father and daughter against. That's awfully difficult stuff to try and get your mind around. What is it that God is, or God is trying to say to us through passages like this, and how do we understand them? But then it's all tied up at the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. And if you don't take up your cross and follow me, then you're not worthy of me. These things will occur. And you think of other statements of Jesus. I think we may have talked about them either last week or the week before. You know, the part in the Bible where the man says, I want to follow you, but can I just go and bury my dad? And he says, no.
And it is very hard, isn't it? Because I think I was reading some of Tom Wright on this, and he was suggesting, you know, this isn't the manifesto for every person in licensed ministry or voluntary and stuff in the church to say the church is more important than my family or my relationships. It isn't about that.
No.
Or at least that's what he suggests. And I think it'd be interesting if your wife and my husband were talking about this passage. They might have different things to say. But it's knowing that actually the passion for Christ in everything we do is liable to put us up against people who disagree with us, and even the closest people to us, even the people we love and we have huge respect for. When we push the agenda of Christ, that's not always well received. And actually, I think what I take from this passage is that, you know, we're not to compromise the message of Jesus, the good news, even when it sets us against people we love, because hopefully we can reconcile with them. But the primary thing is not to compromise on the message. But that's a tough gig, really, for anybody.
And that I think is part of the awkwardness. I don't want to say difficulty or problem, because it's not a problem in that sense. It's a kind of awkwardness, because it does set the Christian leader, whether lay or ordained or whatever else, it often will set them against the local community, because the people come because they want to come to church and hopefully to worship God in all its fullness and greatness, as we hope that's what they come for. I think many probably, you know, many do. But when you start talking about the fact that just coming alone is not, you know, sufficient for God, it's all about what we've just said, that becomes a very, very difficult, because, you know, it isn't easy, and people don't understand or don't compute maybe that actually following Jesus is more than just going to church on a Sunday. It's how you live your life every other angle of every day. And I've had it said to me, it's easy for you to say that, you know, that's what you gave, you know, that's your job. Well, I don't see my role as a job in that sense. I see it as, you know, this work for God, this me being the spiritual director of our communities in some way, and you the same, I hope. And our role is to try and encourage people that it is greater, wider, deeper than just going to church, and how you take you as a, you know, person of Christ, take an equal share in that role of sharing the good news and the gospel.
And I think it's been, you know, when the churches have been closed and the opportunity to meet on a Sunday has been taken away from us, that for many of us has really opened up into that deep kind of understanding of our relationship with God is not dependent on a church building being open, however precious and valuable those sacred spaces are, which we know they are. And we've kind of had a choice, I think, as Christians in lockdown, is you either just kind of pop your Christian observance on the shelf and leave it there until the church opens again, and then you can take it off and off you go. Or for a lot of people, there's been that either the systems and the routines that are already part of their lives have really strengthened. So private prayer, reading the Bible, listening to sacred music, living, you know, day by day, living out faith, and has encouraged us and strengthened us. So it's an, you know, I would never say we're persecuted in this country, because we're not at all.
Nope.
But when people are persecuted for their faith, which is what Jesus is talking about, often that strengthens faith, doesn't it? It strengthens the resilience in people and makes it more important to hang on to it under pressure, because it's even more valuable.
Well, and yes, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I've expressed that over the last few weeks in some way that, you know, if people are lost because they don't understand, you know, what they're meant to be doing because of of lockdown, that's because the teaching we have given them and successive generations of the church leaders have given to them has not been good enough.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes, our fault. Definitely our fault.
You know, it's our fault. I had a conversation with a colleague of ours only yesterday about this, being able to pray in churchyards, which I understand, and that's great and a good place to be. But everyone's welcome anytime. Says on most of our notice boards, you're welcome here. You know, the fact is that if people feel that the only place they can pray is in the building, then our teaching somehow has gone awry. Because, as you quite rightly said, over the last 12 weeks, people have learned that it's actually okay to pray where they are, or to pray as they work, or to pray as they walk their dog, or to pray as they sit quietly in their own prayer space that we've encouraged, or certainly ourselves have encouraged, to people to create within their own home as a place of a place to withdraw to, so the time you're spending with God is dedicated to God in that place. And
but of course, what Jesus is doing here, he's sending them out. So this isn't about worship. This is about mission, isn't it? This is about living, action, about being out in the world. And I've talked to you about this before. We were talking about regrets actually before, and one of my regrets is that before I was ordained and when I was a teacher, for lots of different reasons, I didn't take that vocation as being a Christian teacher seriously enough. I took my vocation of being a teacher seriously, but actually I was a follower of Christ and a primary school teacher, and somehow, and I wish someone had helped me work out how those things sit together, because I just really spent a lot of time keeping them separate, and that was really wrong. And I look back and I just think, what a shame. I really missed the integration of my vocation as a Christian, as a disciple, and my vocation as a primary school teacher. I missed how to integrate the two. And I feel sorry about that. Whereas I know when you talk about your nursing, you often talk about how those two, your faith and your nursing, were very integrated, even when you couldn't be open about faith in your hospital setting, but you were able to see how those two integrated. And I feel sad that I missed it.
But I think again, Jo, that's back to, for teaching, whichever fellowship you belong to, you should have encouraged that as an understanding. And I think my own understanding, and as I've shared before, I never had any great blinding on the road or suddenly being smacked in the face kind of transition. Faith was always there for us. And I remember being brought up through the teaching of the school, of the Sunday school, never to be ashamed of your faith, never be ashamed of Jesus, the vicar used to tell us, because he's always there with you. And all right, not everybody followed that, but I always remembered that. Never be ashamed of Jesus. Never be afraid to talk about him. Because did people belittle me? Well, as children, no. Older school, yes, but that's just children at school. You learn that in life, don't you? That's what they do.
They don't pick on you for anything.
Yeah, if you're not a computer geek or a rugby player or a whatever, then and all the rest of it. But people, I think they respected me for the fact that I did never deny any of that. So it was easy to take that next step, and that's the real profound hope I still have in the role that I have now, that I can encourage other people to see that not to be ashamed of their faith. And how you live it out will depend and vary on where you are, what situation you're in, and how you do it. But never deny Christ, because if you've chosen to follow him, it's costly, and it can have all kinds of I don't want to use the word barriers, but it can have all kinds of things in the way at times. But if you don't deny him and you know he's there with you, he's going to help you around them, over them, through them, across them, in whatever way. And those stumbling blocks along the way are the moments when you're picking up the cross on your back to follow him, for me.
Fabulous. And we didn't even say do not be afraid, because that's the other bit in that passage. Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. Nothing to be afraid about. God loves us.
Even more than sparrows.
Yeah, I almost burst into song. That wonderful hymn.
We still haven't looked it up though.
No, it's in the book. I'll look it. I'll learn the tune for next week. It's
been good spending time with you. Thanks for joining us. We always love to hear that people watch our ramblings. But we do it anyway. I think it's possibly been the most transformative thing we've done in our ministry for a while, actually, choosing to do this. So thank you. Anyways, join us on social media. I'm so bad at this bit. Social media at Beaminster Team, Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. Everything you need to know about, it's not helpful. Everything you need to know about our team is basically on our website, beaminsterteamchurches.org. And we'd love to see you and hear from you. You can comment on our Facebook page, you can send us an email, you can write to us, do anything you like. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll see you again next week. And
if you've got any thoughts about perhaps how church is going to look at the end of all this, we would love to hear. Please tell us and share with us what you would like to, what you feel is the way forward, or how you feel people can engage with us in different ways. Thank you.
Feel free to disagree with us.
Please.
And agree.
Yeah, please.
There we are. Bless you all. See you soon. Bye.